Okay, just make sure I'm live. Okay, everyone, we are live. And I'm sorry about the appearance, first of all, of the live stream today, because it's simply too hot where I am now. It's 36 degrees outside, completely abnormal for the time, autumn. And inside where I improvise the studio, it's very hot, so I will not turn on any lights, so the filters won't be working. I will not I want to avoid to add more heat to the place. Okay, being that said, let's go right into it. So we know it's hot in Gaza Strip, it's hot in Israel. Everyone, I mean the world, as we say, it was awakened yesterday by the recent attacks from Hamas into Israel. Unprecedented attack, unexpected, although I have some doubts about the unexpected part. I will talk about it later on. Also, I want to say that soon, like in 1.5 hours or 1 hour and a quarter or so, Russell Bentel will be joining me in another live stream to comment on the situation in the Middle East. And yeah, a lot of questions arise. I mean, first of all, let's start with the Arab countries' reaction, right? So there are images of, for example, Turkey, Yemen, Qatar, and other places with massive demonstrations in support of Hamas and Palestine. On the other hand, we see multiple channels, this is what strikes me a little bit strange, of course. A lot of pro-Western channels and pro-Western people publishing on Twitter and on social media all over. And of course the mainstream media immediately condemning the Hamas attacks, abusing, I mean, the repetition of the name terrorist, and condemning right away. And this comes across to me a little bit odd, not because of this reaction, but I will explain briefly. So we have these attacks, unprecedented attacks. We all seen. I mean, they broke into the fence. They went cross water. They went in paragliding into Israeli territory. They destroyed tanks. They captured military bases. Complete chaos, right? And the first questions that arises is that how is that possible? We are not talking about a territory which is like left and abandoned, which is that place in the front line where no one expects an attack. We are talking about a massively surveilled piece of territory, a strip of land, not very big, completely surrounded with fence, surveillance, a permanent military apparatus, plus the secret services work on the inside. And so I've seen testimonies of the Israeli side on several media saying that they have no idea how this happened. And this is at the minimum very, very strange. I mean, we see images. The other thing that I noticed is that the amount of graphic images that were suddenly released outside, even filmed by the Hamas fighters, apparently, I mean, creating havoc, very graphic scenes of civilians dead and women being dragged into Humvees or Jeeps. By the way, when we see a lot of this, like they are attacking women, I have to say this, that many of those women or at least some of those that we've seen on the images, are Israeli soldiers. They have a strong female presence in the army, and a lot of these women, of course, were targeted, but they are soldiers nevertheless. And if you are at war, you're not going to avoid shooting that person because she's a female. She's a soldier, all right? I mean, it's she can shoot back and she can fight. So there's a lot of misinformation there, like when immediately wanting to portray and to demonize the Hezbollah, the Hamas. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about the Hezbollah soon. And yeah, so a lot of these images suddenly came out. Very easy to condemn Hamas in this situation, and very easy to condemn these deeds. But as I spoke in the previous live stream, we know that Israel has been terrorizing Palestinians and Palestine in their own homes, in their own land for decades. There are images, also very graphic, of Israeli soldiers detaining children. I mean, really heartbreaking scenes, and this has been repeatedly. So what I think is an overreaction. Let me say this, I condemned all the violence against civilians. Let me put this very clear. I don't think that actions are right, but like in every conflict, and as I said before, we have to understand the roots of the conflict. And this is not a simple thing like the bad guys are hiding there, plotting against the good guys, and suddenly they attack, and the good guys are the victims. And so it's not like this. If you understand this conflict like this, you, I'm afraid to say, are a moron and should get better informed. Because there's no other word. If you think this is like the cartoon you used to watch when you were a kid, the good people against the bad, it's not like that. There is a resistance movement, a legitimate, according as far as I'm concerned, legitimate resistance. Of course, there are several Palestinian movements. It's not one force. There are some groups in Palestine that advocate. They are against Israel, but they are against the use of force in their struggle. And Hamas controls the Gaza Strip, but it doesn't control. The Palestinian Authority controls, for example, the West Bank, where a lot of territory has been taken from Palestinians, people driven out of their homes, daily terror, intended terror, not collateral damage. Notice this. It has a policy of terror, and so yeah, this is the generally in gross lines. Well, let me see what's going on here. Why suddenly my screen blacked out? Let me see if we are still live. Okay, we are still live. And so, yeah, there is a conflict. It's not like they suddenly woke up one day and let's do this to Israel, right? Having said this, I condemned all those acts against civilians, of course. And so, the mysterious thing remains. You see when you go through the images of the Hamas attacking, running into true open fields, into military bases, with only a few people there, some of them women. I mean, what kind of defense or what kind of... Isn't this supposed to be the army that is very efficient, has a lot of experience, decades of experience, a lot of cutting-edge technology? It's strange. I don't want to go into theories, but this is, you have to agree, this is at the minimum very strange. How the Hamas suddenly is allowed to run infantry, running through open fields into military bases. I'm not even talking about when they went to civilian places, because, okay, they caught the civilians off guard, and yeah. But military bases, what kind of military bases are these surrounding the Gaza Strip? It's like they left the gate open or something. It's very, very strange, and this should raise questions. I don't want to too much speculation about this, because man, one can think like, is this the kind of maneuver that Israel allows the attack to take place and take this shape and form? Maybe some inside provocateur agents, and then now it has the upper hand. It has the public opinion all around the world on its favor, because it showed plenty of images of civilians being killed or maimed or arrested. And now it can do whatever it wants with the Gaza Strip with no accountability whatsoever. It didn't have much before, but we know that Israel has been criticized. But suddenly the narrative changes, and Israel is the poor guy, is the victim. This has to put people to think. Okay, this is at the minimum strange. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll have later on, I'll remind you that I will have Russell joining me to comment on this, Russell Bentley. And I would like very much to hear his thoughts on this, his opinion. And so now, escalation. A lot of Arab countries, I mean, I haven't mentioned Iran. Of course, Iran, the parliament was singing and in support of Hamas. Hamas has support also from Qatar. And there are rumors, I haven't mentioned this, but there are rumors that many of the weapons that Hamas acquired came through the black market from Ukraine. From Ukraine. This is not confirmed, but I've seen these reports and people speculating about this. It's something also to have in mind. So, Hezbollah attacked in the north. I was talking about this yesterday. This could spark escalation. And now if Israel really goes deep into the Gaza Strip, Hezbollah can escalate his attacks in the north as well. Hezbollah has a different capability than Hamas, because it's not isolated on an open-air prison. It has more freedom of movement across borders. We remember their role in the Syrian war against the extremist groups, financed by the United States and Turkey. This is a very experienced force. They are not afraid of Israel. And so they started. There are reports on mortar shelling on the north of Israel, Israel responding, and promises from Hezbollah to increase, to escalate, even to invade if Israel goes deep inside the Gaza Strip. That's what Israel will do, actually. I mean, they are mobilizing everyone. They're putting tanks on the streets. But also their tactics leave a little bit to be desired, I have to say. I mean, we have been now almost 2 years of 1.5 years into the Ukraine war, and we see how much the tactics and the use of weapons have been enhanced on both sides, Ukraine and Russia. And now we see Israel, for example, going into a town to suppress the Hamas fighters in that town, and they just go in groups, in bands. If they would do this in a scenario like Ukraine, they would be all dead in a matter of minutes. I mean, they are not being very savvy in their tactics. Okay, but going a little bit back, ask yourself this question: how did Israel did not notice this? It's been reported that they fired like 7,000 rockets into Israel. How can you carry 7,000 rockets into the Gaza Strip, plus all the weaponry, all the equipment, do all that plotting, and without no one even noticing? This is it's strange at minimum. Let's hope it's not that I just mentioned. Okay, and so let's go on with the recent news. The Iron Dome, yeah, a lot of rockets have got into Israel, and the Iron Dome failed to protect. I mean, the Iron Dome is very efficient, don't take me wrong. They are used to deal with occasional rocket launching into the territory. They intercept effectively, but now the Iron Dome was overwhelmed. Already announced a 6 billion package of aid to Israel. I'm sure the Ukrainian counterparts are jealous at this time. Yeah, so this raises a lot of questions. We don't know who might join. We know Hamas has support. I mean, you cannot do such an attack without organization and means of support. We know that the Palestinian people will suffer now. I've seen people that I follow, for example, on social media, Palestinians that I follow that belong to this movements against settlements, against Israeli settlements on their lands, but they do it peacefully, and they keep getting arrested every day. Isa Amro is one of these cases. This guy just today published a picture of his wrists completely swollen because he'd been arrested and tortured by the Israeli forces, and his testimony on Instagram was completely insensible. People not sensible to the things that are happening around them or to the suffering of other people. It has become a standard practice. I also went through some channels, and I had to take a look at Slaviangrad. Slaviangrad, I have mentioned this channel before, but I haven't put it in context properly. Slaviangrad is a Telegram channel that became known throughout the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and is a pro-Russian channel. Although I consider it having a lot of quality, not just the quality of the pieces it writes, it publishes, but also the capacity of self-criticism. So although it's pro-Russian, it can take a very critical stance in the Russian way of doing things. And by the way, also I saw a talk show, an interview. It was late night. I took a peek at that, and it was like late in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning. RT News, and some former Pentagon official was being interviewed, and his speech was completely pro-Western, and he's being interviewed in RT News. I think the program was called Underground. And he laid down his speech, and of course the interviewer challenged his arguments, but didn't censor him. So this is the evil RT that the Western has censored. Just a side note. So the Slaviangrad has made a compilation of headlines, quite interesting in my opinion, about all these things going around in the world. For example, from Politico, they took this headline: the interim cabinet of ministers of Slovakia announced the cessation of military supplies to Ukraine. I will tell you in short notice why this is relevant, because we know that Ukraine is heavily dependent on the Western aid, totally dependent on the Western aid, and now suddenly, if these headlines can imply, all this news can imply the dwindling aid to Ukraine in the near future. So Politico writes this about Slovakia, but that's not surprise. Fico won the election. Okay. The Guardian writes, it's time for President Biden to rethink the US position and stop supporting Kiev's demands on Crimea. Washington should step up diplomatic efforts instead of providing military support to Ukraine. The Guardian. Notice this. The American Thinker. The conflict in Ukraine is not in the interests of ordinary Americans. However, it is beneficial to American lobbyists who earn millions from defense contracts and later plan to make a fortune from the restoration of Ukraine. Yeah. So, The Hill. With the arrival of a new Speaker of the U.S. House Representatives, aid to Ukraine may end. Leading candidates oppose further support for Kiev, and the Pentagon warns that previously allocated funds are already running out. I mean, yeah. Bloomberg writes, Hamas attack on Israel undermines Biden's efforts to forge a US-Saudi Arabia-Israel alliance. Yeah, Saudi Arabia has been playing the double game, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Le Dauphin Libre, French news outlet, writes, in France they decided to remove the flag of Ukraine after President Zelensky's statement about Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh following his telephone conversation with the head of Azerbaijan, Aliyev. According to the publication, the mayor's office of the French city of Vienne was enraged by Ukraine's leader's statement about commitment to the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries. So, German Chancellor Scholz. This is a good one. Germany has not yet made the decision on supplying Ukraine with Taurus long-range missiles, as it is trying to prevent escalation, in quotation marks, of the war. This it comes to me as a surprise, actually, because I think escalation is all what the West wanted in the Ukraine conflict. Sky News says Ukrainian President Zelensky may in the future consider resuming negotiations with Russia and reaching certain compromises with Moscow in the event of a significant reduction in Western military assistance. So, all these titles on the Western media and by Western officials can be a good hint that actually the aid to, although I'm still skeptical, I've shown my skepticism in different videos. Project Ukraine, like the Duran calls it, it's too big of a deal to be just abandoned, and I'm sure there will be a lot of deals made under the table about this, but I don't think that Ukraine will be left with bare hands. The thing is that, of course, those objectives of borders of 1991, those seem very, very far away now, and each time we see out this news, and yeah. So now getting back to the Middle East and the Palestinian scene. Hamas has published the footage of this assault on Israeli army base Kfar Aza. This video raises huge questions about the combat effectiveness of the IDF, as I just said. But is it the combat effectiveness, or was it on purpose? Okay, I know I'm getting into very dubious way and speculative way. It's up to you to decide anyway. So I'm just putting the questions out there. And this source writes also, it is also from Slaviangrad. A crowd of militants in an open field simply ran into the base, where they shot a few Israeli soldiers who tried to resist. The rest were captured. Yeah. What was this defense all about? I mean, unless they were, after years of pounding the open air prison, of arresting defenseless people, they really thought that there was no danger for them being there. Maybe this was the case. It's also a possibility. Overconfidence. The footage shows a lot of abandoned military equipment, the bodies of IDF soldiers, and 4 female soldiers captured by Hamas. There are a lot of speculation about these female soldiers being sexually abused. I will not confirm that, of course. We know that's also the aggression against children and the sexual abuse are both very, how can I say, very strong propaganda weapons. I'm not saying that they are not true, but you have to analyze when you make those claims on those accusations. We have seen this in the past by the side of Ukraine. And then officials had to apologize afterwards because they simply made accusations without any proof. So Hamas, what was Hamas' plan? If we go through the news, Hamas apparently has been capturing a lot of hostages and taking them back to the Gaza Strip. I'm sorry if you hear some noises. I'm in the watershed and the water pump. Someone is using the water and the water pump is being turned on. Forgive me for that. Conditions I have are these. So the Hezbollah, yeah, and this is where the Hezbollah comes. Hezbollah announced its readiness to attack Israel from the north. And I quote, "If Israel sends ground troops into Gaza, they will meet our forces in the north." The US authorities are discussing with Israel its needs for military assistance, but are not yet ready to announce its provision. A lot of criticism from the West goes to those countries that took the neutral stance. For example, Turkey, Erdogan's speech is saying, is calling to the appeasement, is calling to restraint on both parts. And Russia has also done that. And the curious thing about Turkey is that some of the help, I don't know how much, but some of the help that goes to Hamas comes from Turkey. Turkey is a NATO country. So it's a complicated chess being played out there. Turkey is a NATO country. The West is trying to get a foothold in Armenia. Turkey is also historical enemy with Armenia. It's confusing to say the least. Okay, the United States currently has no information about Iran's involvement in the attacks on Israel. Washington now considers it premature to conclude Iran's involvement in attacks on Israel, the US authorities said in a statement. Yeah, so this is the scenario now. I still go back to this.
Hamas.
It's a lot to think about.
If you look at the history,
I'm gonna show you, because not every Western opinion is the same. Luckily, fortunately, and I'm gonna show you just this little video of Senator Ron Paul, about the situation in Palestine. So let me just, if I don't screw up here, just see. Okay, here we are.
What's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election to do, and they elect Hamas. So we first indirectly and directly through Israel help establish Hamas. Then we have an election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. It just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, we were allied with Osama bin Laden. and we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CIA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
Yeah. Yeah. You see the web of interest that it's being done here. Like the hand of the United States is pretty much in every world conflict you can imagine. I mean, and for the bad and for the good as well. I mean, I remember their positive role, for example, in ending the conflict between the IRA in Great Britain, for example, the provisional IRA in Northern Ireland. This was a positive thing. I can't remember many examples, but they are meddling, and people that they consider their primary enemies they are a lot of times their former friends. And this actually has to put you to think. I mean, it's far from being black and white. It's far from being like just conclusions drawn on morals. This is a business. This is orchestrated. And at the end, the people who pulls the strings are far, far from the front lines, far from the conflict lines. They are detached from reality, so they have no empathy. This is my thoughts. Just putting this out. I mean, Ron Paul just put it perfectly. That Hamas was a tool to combat the PLO, OLP in Portuguese, PLO, yeah, and yeah. So and now it's became the enemy, but still don't believe anything, don't believe everything you see, even the things that you take for granted. Keep doubting them. Occasionally revisit your certainties and doubt them. That's a very healthy stance to have. Okay, this is all for me now. Later on at 1700 hours Greenwich time, Greenwich +1, well, in about an hour, in less than an hour, I'll be having Mr. Russell Bentley with me to discuss further this subject. Thanks for being with me. Don't forget, support the channel, subscribe. I really need your support now. I mean, I want to make this, I want to do a step further, and I won't be able to do it with your support. For now, just subscribe, and yeah, and share my work. It's the least it's all I ask from you, actually.